Hello there. In today's video, we're going to talk about equipment. So obviously equipment is pretty important for clarinet playing. However, if you're just a beginner, if you're a student, there's not too much you really need. These days you can buy a clarinet on like Amazon. I think they sell this brand and then Landini. And I think there's another one they sell about the same price, like Glory, and even like one more, I forget. They're all about $100. Like when I was a student, you couldn't buy a clarinet that worked for $100. Are they great clarinets? No, but for students, they work totally fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They play fine. I have a bunch of students who play on them. They're not the greatest. They do have couple of maintenance issues and whatnot, but they work. They play, they're relatively in tune, they sound like a clarinet, and they're real instruments, they're not fake. And speaking of equipment, with the Mendini or with these Amazon instruments, they usually come with everything you need. They come with like reeds and cork grease and etc. But they also come with this nifty little clarinet stand, which is really nice. It screws and unscrews in the bottom here, and then these legs open up, and then they just screw right back on the same way, right? And then you can put your clarinet on here, and then when you're done, you just fold up the legs and they go right back inside the bottom, and you screw it back in, and this whole contraption fits inside of the bell very neatly and inside of a case really snug. So they're very portable, very nice to have, and I always highly recommend this. This is one of the pieces of equipment that I highly recommend to all of my students. It just kind of frees up your hands for when you're setting up and packing up, as well as like turning pages or writing notes or anything like that. It's just very useful to have. It's a huge quality of life. If your clarinet did not come with one, you can buy one that's very similar on Amazon for like $10 or something like that. You can probably go to any music store and they might have it there as well. Just look for the ones that I showed you, something similar design to that. They have other kinds, like the one I use for mine is this Hercules, and it's very bulky, but it's great. When I'm doing gigs and whatnot, there's extra little slots here for more clarinets, or if you're like a woodwind specialist and you play like flute and clarinet and saxophone and stuff, you can connect other pieces to it. They're great for that. I use it because I have two clarinets. I have my B flat clarinet, which is the one you're most likely playing, as well as an A clarinet. It's in the key of A. And so I can have both clarinets on that stand, and I don't need a separate stand for that. For you guys as students, most of you guys probably will never need anything like that. So just the little cone-shaped one with the foldable legs, that's honestly probably going to be the best one for you. And again, I highly, highly recommend it. The only time obviously you wouldn't really use one is like if you're in marching band, for example. It's not very applicable. The other piece of equipment I very highly recommend to all of my students is a leather ligature. Rovner sells one, R-O-V-N-E-R, Rovner leather ligature. It's very good. I use a metal ligature, which is just more finicky. It's just a lot more work. But these leather ones, they're very great. You don't really have to think about lining up anything with the ligature, getting it perfect, and this and that. You just kind of slap it on. And because it's leather, the idea is that if this is the reed, the leather is flexible. So just kind of no matter how you place it, if it's a little off center or whatever, the ligature, it doesn't really matter because it'll kind of adhere to the reed and it'll kind of conform around it and create a consistent shape every single time. They also usually only have one giant screw on the back, so it's a lot easier to just screw and unscrew. So for use, it's just so much more convenient. It's very consistent, efficient, and convenient to use. And they run you about like $20 maybe 30 bucks. So they're not incredibly expensive, but the quality of life improvement for the leather ligature as well as the stand, the clarinet stand, is huge in my opinion. One last piece of equipment that I highly recommend for my students is a good mouthpiece, but if you're a beginner or if you're not very advanced yet, it's an investment and you don't necessarily need one at the early stages. But if you're getting more serious, if you're practicing a lot, if you're really enjoying the instrument, I do recommend a good mouthpiece. The Van Doren line is pretty good. They make tons of mouthpieces. They're all about the same price. From what I remember, they're about $100. I think more like 120 these days. And they're all good. The one I would really recommend is the M13 Lyre, M13, and then Lyre, Lyre. And that one's really good. Again, about $100. They're all about the same. And those mouthpieces, you get one and you're good. That's it. You never need another mouthpiece. You should take good care of it. You don't break it, and it'll last you your lifetime. And lastly, the last thing I wanted to cover in the equipment here is reeds. So in one of my previous videos, I had mentioned that there's this misconception about reeds as far as like brands go and chips and whatnot. It's really not that serious. You can get any reed. As long as it's actually a clarinet reed, they'll work. You don't need any super fancy brand or anything. For a very, very long time, I was playing on a specific brand because everybody told me that that's the one you need to use. It's the best reed on the market. It's this and that. It's more expensive than the other ones. And I was spending money on these reeds. And for a long time, I didn't like any of the reeds, but I didn't know why. I didn't ever assume that it could be the reed or the brand or whatever. Because everyone told me it's the best one. But after I switched to a different brand, which coincidentally is cheaper, I liked them a lot more. Like every reed in the box was good. 9 out of the 10 reeds I liked, whereas with the previous brand, it was the opposite. It was maybe 1 out of the 10 reeds I really liked, and I just thought that was normal. My point is, don't worry about which brand you're getting. Don't worry about the price or this or that. Like, just get whatever reed is available. Get the cheapest one if you want. As long as they are good, as long as you play on them and they sound okay, they play okay, you're not incredibly frustrated while working with the reeds. That's all that matters. You don't need crazy expensive reeds. As far as how to pick out a reed, you're looking for how easy it is to play on, how much air you have to blow to fight against the reed. If you're pushing very hard because the reed is fighting back, it's probably too hard of a reed. If you're blowing and you barely put any effort and the reed's like squeaking and just the sound is no good, it's distorted, it's wonky, probably the reed is too soft. So you kind of want to find this nice balance. And let's say you find a strength that you really like. Let's say you're on like 3s or 3.5 or something like that, and you find that you're consistently in that range and it's playing well, and you pick out a box, and from the box you're going through all your reeds, and they're not going to be the same. All 10 of them are not going to be the same. Some will be better than others. So you just kind of have to keep that in mind as you're selecting reeds, as you're selecting the brand and the pricing and availability and all that. But don't be stuck on one particular brand or one particular model of reed or anything like that because somebody told you that that's the one you need to play on. As far as chips go, I've mentioned you can play on a chipped reed. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. It's just gonna make the sound not as good. It's not gonna cause any squeaks. But you obviously want to play on good reeds that are not chipped and that are not messed up. The only exception is if there's a split in the reed, which this one doesn't have, but basically you could see the grains on the reed like this. If there was a split on it, like the reed, was doing something like this, right? If it's split somewhere like down the middle or like on the edge or anything like that, if there's a crack going down the reed, which happens sometimes, that reed is no good. It's not going to play. Like it's not going to play well ever. It's just going to have lots of issues. So that's a bad reed. But if you get these little tiny nicks on the top, I mean, it's still playable. You just obviously don't want that. This video is getting a bit long, so hopefully maybe I'll make a part 2, or if not, you know, you can feel free to always ask questions in the comment section. I'll try to answer them. But yeah, stay tuned for more different topics on how to play clarinet.